That sure feels like a long way down there. If you've ever been in a valley in your life, this is the video for you. You know, as I'm driving through the mountains here, I keep reaching these summits, and every time I'm at a summit, I really see the valley that lies below, and it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. As you're driving these winding roads, and you look off, and just a couple feet away from the shoulder is this huge drop-off. Made me really think about the people that are in those valleys. You know, there's lots of things in life that can thrust us in a valley, right? We can lose our job. We can lose a loved one. We can have these things that just happen. They just happen to us, not because we've done anything wrong, but just happen in the course of living life that shake our faith. And we've all been in a valley a time or two in our lives. But I think about those huge drop-offs, those falls where we suddenly wake up and we find ourselves deep in this cavern, deep down in this valley, and the peak seems so far away that we're never going to get there, or at least it feels like we're never going to get there. And when we find ourselves in these places, God seems like the last thing that we reach for. Because what kind of God would let something like this happen to us, right? What kind of God would allow us to endure so much suffering and not step in and do something? What kind of God would let us fall all the way down into the valley with no hope of ever getting out? I think back to a story that I've heard time and time again. A man is walking down the street and he falls in this deep hole. And a doctor walks by and the man says, "Help, help, get me out of this hole." And the doctor pulls out his prescription pad and writes a prescription and throws it in the hole and keeps going. And then a priest walks by and the man says, "Help, I'm in a hole, get me out." And the priest writes down a prayer and throws it down to the man and keeps going. And then his friend walks by and the man says, "Help, I'm in this hole, get me out." And the friend jumps down into the hole and he says, "What are you doing, you idiot? Now we're both stuck." But the friend says, "I've been in this hole before. I know the way out." There's so many people in our communities, in our circles, so many people that we encounter along this walk of life that have been in the hole, that have been all the way down there in the valley, and somehow they've managed to climb their way out. The truth of the matter is, what you learn when you're in that valley is that the only way out of the valley is with help. The only way out of the valley is with a community of people that reach their arms down to pull you out of the valley. The only way out of that valley is to reach for God. And when we reach for God, we encounter God. We encounter God's people, the hands and feet of God on this earth that give us compassion and mercy, that pour grace over our lives, that are there for us in times of need. And even though it feels like God is absent, sometimes God isn't absent. You know, the disciples encounter a storm on the boat and Jesus is sleeping on the boat and they think they're going to die. And they're crying out, "Lord, Lord, please help us." And Jesus wakes up and he motions with his hand and he stops the storm in its tracks. And in that moment, the disciples realize that the God we serve is mighty. And even when it seems like God is distant, even when it seems like God is nowhere to be found, God hears the cries of his people. God hears your cries. In those moments where you find yourself in a valley, those moments where life just happens, all you have to do is reach out to God. And I promise you that you will find God. This journey of life is precious in every single way. And there's going to be moments when you find yourself all the way at that peak. And there's going to be moments where you blink your eye and you find yourself all the way down in the valley. But no matter where you are, God is with you. No matter what hole or what valley you find yourself in, you can make it out, friend. All you have to do is be willing to reach out your hand and call on the name of God. And I promise you, you're going to find a way out. Thanks for watching.
These are your talks, dictator. This is the hope of God set free. These are your talks.